everyone, welcome. You're watching NewsX World's The Newsroom. Now, in this bulletin, we are going to give you a roundup of all the top stories that happened today across the world. Whether from the west to the east, to the northern hemisphere, to the southern hemisphere, we are going to give you a quick roundup of everything that mattered and everything that has consequence and impact. Let's start, in fact, with the meeting that was held between two of the greatest and the strongest leaders of the world. We're talking about US President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Donald Trump hosted Netanyahu at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. On agenda was the Gaza ceasefire, talks on Iran, and everything that is now posing a threat to Israel. I have my colleague Rema to join me in this discussion. Rema, could you help us take our viewers through some of the key takeaways from this meeting?
Yes, Kriti, of course, this meeting between the US President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu comes at a time when the US President Donald Trump is actually pushing for his big bets towards the end of the year for the foreign policies. I would like to quickly take you through the key takeaways from this meeting. Most importantly, I would like to highlight the fact both the leaders, there was an outpouring of compliments towards each other. They were evidently heard touting their diplomatic relationship and their extraordinary friendship with each other. They have Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in fact mentioned that US President Donald Trump must be honored with the highest civilian award from Israel, and he has mentioned that the relationship between even Trump mentioned that, Israel and US's relationship in so many years, this year was different, and Israel, the bonding between the two countries would not have been the same had their ties would have not strengthened over time. However, to mention the main focus of the conversation or the discussion, their meeting was going to be on the Israel-Gaza war and the further truce. However, there was very little to no mention over the second phase and how Israel is moving very slowly towards the second phase of the war, in the second phase of the truce deal. Trump, in fact, has entirely blamed Hamas for the agreement. He's mentioned that the ball is now in Hamas's court, and the fact that only if Hamas agrees to disarmament, there will be a second phase of they will move towards the second phase of the deal. And not to mention, both the leaders during the meeting, Trump has also raised, when asked about the West Bank annexation by Israel, Trump has in fact said that this is one subject that the two countries don't align with at all, and there is 100% disapproval from US President Donald Trump or United States for the annexation of West Bank. Israeli settlements expansion has in fact reached its peak in 2025 since 2027, and ICJ has declared annexation and expansion as illegal, and despite that, in the past couple of months there were an increase in strikes in West Bank by Israel. Apart from Israel, Gaza and West Bank, Trump also took the platform to raise grave warnings to Iran for its development of nuclear missile programs. He's warned Iran to stop the program and instead go for a deal with United States to stop the military actions.
Talks on the Iran nuclear program as of now in this year have not seen any progress. In fact, a very crucial statement also came in from Iran today that retaliated to Donald Trump and said that if there is escalation on Iran, it would reply with a full throttle attack and there would not be any backing down. Iran is now increasingly getting the support of North Korea and other regional players like Russia also. Do you think now it is ready with its nuclear arsenal, even though no such statement has come in? Do we see escalation in this conflict, or do you think a dialogue could be arrived at as far as the Iran nuclear plan is concerned? Because most are saying that Iran is actually almost ready. It's only a matter of time that an announcement can come out.
Very interestingly, since you have mentioned, Trump during the meeting hinted at the fact that there are some very crucial and reports that have come into the United States from the intelligence that that Iran has already developed its ballistic missile programs, and Trump and even Trump mentioned that there is no smoke without fire, to quote him. So,
Yeah.
of course, I think this is definitely hinting at the fact that this could be the next stage of next phase of war that we could be expecting in the upcoming time soon, very soon.
And talking about the Gaza ceasefire, like you said, Rema, that they are talking of going on to the next phase, but the point of contention remains the last remain hostages, mortal remains that have not yet returned to Gaza. That was part of the first phase of the ceasefire. So without having fully achieved the objectives of the first phase, how can the parties actually proceed to the next phase? And also do address for our viewers the question of the international stabilization force, which many countries, as you would know, are not ready to send their troops towards.
So the last, to mention about the first phase of the Gaza peace deal, like you mentioned, and then there will be a second phase of the truce deal. In the first phase, there was clear mention that Hamas will be returning the mortal remains of the hostages and the soldiers, and the last, apart from the last remaining body of the hostage, all the bodies have been returned to Israel. And despite that, Israel has continued its strikes in Gaza. Over hundreds have been killed since the first phase of peace deal, which was brokered by United States in October. So the only question now remains is how slow, why is there a delay? And like I mentioned, Trump has completely blamed just Hamas for the delay in the truce, and Hamas officials, when they recently met in Qatar to discuss the second phase of the deal, there were of course questions over the fact that Israel is not ready for a truce with Hamas unless and until there is disarmament, that Hamas has completely refused to.
All right, very interesting developments indeed, Rema, you would agree, taking place. But let's now move on and tell our viewers about the developments that are taking place in Latin America, particularly Venezuela, and Trump's increasing aggression, not now just in Caribbean, but also with the US and the CIA launching a covert drone strike in Venezuela. Trump has now gone on to attack within the country. The CIA has carried out covert strikes, but very important, Rema, for viewers to note here and appreciate the fact that no such official statement has yet come out from any of the two countries, not from the US, not from the Venezuela. What do you think is really happening, and where is Trump now likely to stop as far as Venezuela and Maduro is concerned?
This, what we are looking at right now, in my opinion, is a new phase of war between Venezuela and United States, because now with the recent reports of the attacks that US President Donald Trump himself has confirmed that they have attacked the dock, which means that after several attacks on the boats in the past couple of months, now US is now moved from ocean to the land, which is the implementation, the home base for the land, attacking the borders of a country within the country, which is of course a new sign for the new phase of war in the standoff between Venezuela and United States. And I would also like to, since you mentioned CIA, I would like to give you the details of the strikes. While the exact location of the dock is the exact details of the dock which United States has targeted yesterday has not been specified. There are 2 people who have been killed in this strike, and as per reports, CIA used a drone attack in the attack. And when US President Trump was asked whether there's CIA involved, he hasn't denied or agreed or accepted the fact that CIA is involved. He has instead said that he knows who has carried out the strikes. However, there's no mention of what sort of intelligence or military was involved in this attack. But like I mentioned, this is a new phase of a standoff between both the countries, and I would also like to take you through the numbers of these strikes in the past couple of months. In September, 30 strikes have been carried out in the United States on alleged Venezuelan drug boats, and more than 100 deaths have been reported so far. However, United States have failed to provide any evidence on whether these boats were carrying any drugs on board.
Rema, do you also see some intervention now coming in from China and Russia, which have earlier issued warnings against Trump's aggression, and also Argentina in Latin America has also warned against that aggression. So far, all these countries have not proceeded in Caribbean, but do you think they're going to continue to maintain strategic restraint? Or is there going to be a change in stance after this particular strike, especially when I believe 2 people have been killed?
I would like to mention here that the two countries have 2 different sides to this standoff. While United States is constantly to point out that Venezuela is carrying drugs, and they are probably carrying drugs to enable fentanyl in America, and hence United States has increased its strikes on the Venezuelan boats, while Maduro has completely refused. He has completely refused to comment on this, and he has said that these allegations are completely false, and rather United States is eyeing its oil reserves and is trying to attack the oil tankers. And recently there was also an instance of there were 2 oil tankers that were seized. So considering Venezuela's rich oil production, there's high chances that countries like China are also trying to maintain their diplomatic ties with the country, and hence there is very little intervention, while there is a very obvious refusal and condemnation towards United States strikes towards Venezuela.
All right, thanks very much once again, Rema, for all your perspective and information that's coming in from our team. But do stay on with me. Another crucial development has taken place today, viewers, and that's in context to the Russia-Ukraine war. Today, Russia claimed that Ukraine allegedly carried out strikes at the residence of Russian President Putin's residence in Novgorod. Russia, of course, has denied those, Zelensky, of course, has denied those claims and says that it's only an attempt to derail the progress that have been made in the peace talks so far. Meanwhile, reactions have also come in from other leaders in the world. Donald Trump has warned Zelensky against any such aggression going ahead. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also expressed concern. We all know how Prime Minister Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin continue to enjoy decades of strategic partnership. I'd like to bring in my colleague Rema here in the discussion. Rema, talk us through the statements that have come from Ukraine and Zelensky as far as the alleged strike on Putin's residence in Novgorod is concerned.
Kriti, I couldn't hear you. Could you come again?
Do take our viewers through the statements that have come from either party. To begin with, the statement that's come in from Zelensky as far as the strike on Putin's residence is concerned.
Yeah, so after the alleged attack on Putin's residence, there were reports that started pouring in yesterday. Kremlin has confirmed the attack. However, they have not been able to produce any legal evidence to confirm the attack on Putin's residence. In fact, Kremlin has said that the military the army will be soon releasing the evidence. However, we have not seen any piece of evidence on this. There are no official reports that have come out as to when and how Putin's residence was attacked. Putin, however, also in a conversation with US President Donald Trump said that Russia's position will now change on the ongoing negotiations between the two countries after the alleged attack. And Zelensky has also completely denied the accusations about the attacks on the Russian President Putin's residence. And so far there hasn't been any update on, and we are still waiting on the evidence whether Russian President Putin's residence was attacked by Ukrainian drones or not.
Rema, how do you view the statements that have come in from Donald Trump and other leaders of the world? We're talking about Narendra Modi, leaders of Pakistan who have expressed concerns over the attack. We of course know that they have continued to support Russia, purchased their oil and gas, but now they've also issued a statement which has apparently upset Zelensky, because he says that no such remark was made when Russia had indeed launched strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure.
Indeed, it's surprising even to consider President Donald Trump's reaction to this, and this is ongoing. This comes amid such a crucial time when both the countries are moving towards a peace. At least every time we hear about the countries meeting and the officials and delegation meeting and having phone calls about the negotiations, and then there comes a report about an attack on Russian President Putin's residence. So it's interesting to even see that Trump has also not paid much heed to the report. However, he's condemned it. Even the reactions from Indian Prime Minister Modi is very obvious because of the diplomatic ties that have really strengthened over a period of time between Russia and India. And of course, Zelensky has had support from the EU leaders lately. However, there is very little support that's been seen. There is little to no statement by India on support towards Ukraine. Over to you, Kriti.